So I'm going to label here, these are homework notes. All right, what is number 1 asking us to do?
Give 3 asymptotes to y equals 6x.
Okay, how many asymptotes? 3 asymptotes for y equals tan of 6x. Okay, when you're dealing with the asymptotes, how many, and you're dealing with tangent, how many do they give you? Like how many do you end up with when you graph tangent? 2. So do we have at least 2 and just looking for 1 more? Yes? Amplitude's not important here. What is the period? Pi over 6 or 2 pi over 6? Pi over 6. Now, tangent is the one that splits or does not split?
It's the one that splits.
It's the one that splits. So what do we do with the period? We cut it in half, negative and a positive. What's pi over 6 times 1/2? So negative pi over 12 and positive pi over 12. Does that make sense? Okay. Negative pi over 12 and positive pi over 12. Now, I don't have to graph it, so I'm not going to do all that. But did we already find 2 of the asymptotes? And that right there is a 12. Did we already find 2 of the asymptotes? Yes. All right. Now, what is the period length? How do you do that? End minus start. What's pi over 12? Take away negative pi over 12. What's pi over 12? Take away negative pi over 12. Come on, guys. Pi over 6. Is that your period length? Yes. All right, so you didn't have to do this work to know it's pi over 6. I'm just reminding you, showing you how we do that. Should you have said, oh yeah, this distance pi over 6 because that's the period length. All right, what do I do to either of these to find my next asymptote? The distance between the asymptotes will always be the period length. So I'm going to find the one to the right. What will I do with pi over 12? Add pi over 6. If I wanted to find the one over here to the left, what would I do to negative pi over 12? Subtract. It doesn't matter which one you find. I'm going to find the one on the right hand side. I like adding rather than subtracting. So pi over 12 plus pi over 6. What do you need to find? Common denominator. I'm going to have you guys do that now. Common denominator. Blah, blah, blah. Tell me when you have it. This is 2 pi over 12. What does that give you? 3 pi over 12, which reduces to, what is it? Pi over 4. All right, so did we find 3 of them? Negative pi over 12, positive pi over 12, and pi over 4. This is only one set of a right answer. There are plenty of right answers. You can keep adding and find an infinite amount of asymptotes. You can keep subtracting to the left. And
why would I do that?
You're right. You're right. What was that? Exactly. You are exactly correct. It's like when we did those coterminal angles, and you could do it forever, but why would we do that? All right. Next one I'm going to do is number 3. What is the maximum value of y equals 3 sine x? Maximum value of y equals 3 sine 2x plus 1. Can anybody without graphing tell me what the max is? Is it? Okay, I'm gonna. This is part A. Why is it? Okay, we said 3 up first, which makes sense, but why is it really 4? Okay, so you shift up 1, and then from there you go up 3 for the amp. Is your max 4? Okay, what is question B asking? Where does it occur? Something like that?
Yes.
All right. Now, you don't have to graph all fancy and everything. You can to get more practice. But since they're not asking us to graph, it is okay. Some of you, like you guys told me last time, you kind of just dealt with numbers. So if you're not even doing this, show me some kind of work where you're breaking things up. What's the period length? pi over 2 or pi over 2?
Pi.
2 pi over 2,
Yes.
right? So what is the period length? Pi, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to find these key points. I'm just going to quickly, do you guys agree? If I shift up one and then I graph my sine, you know what? I'm not going to even do that there. I'm going to do it here. If I graph the sine even without shifting, where does the max, this is positive, where does the maximum occur? At the beginning, the end, the middle, or one of the quarter points? First one or second one?
First.
So do you agree it's this one right here? So that's the point I'm looking for? Okay, so cut pi in half. Cut pi over 2 in half. Pi over 4. Now, do you have to show as much work as I did? I mean, that's not even that much work. But you guys were saying last time, well, I just thought this and I cut this in half and blah, blah, blah. That's fine, but give me some kind of work of what you're doing. Any kind of questions on that one? All right, but if you did graph your whole graph, this is what it would look like. So this is nice and neat with all the work shown, not needed, but it's not a bad idea to get extra practice. Do you see the max is 4 and it happens at pi over 4? Yes? Alrighty. Number 6. What is number 6 asking?
Where is a 0 for y equals cotangent of 2 parentheses x minus pi over 3 parentheses?
Thank you. All right, where is the 0 for this? Now, same thing. Well, there's more than one way. You can do it algebraically or graphically. Because of time, I'm going to do only graphically today, but I will show you algebraically another day. Some kids prefer to graph. Some kids prefer to do the algebraic way. I will tell you this, either way, there's a lot of work. Okay. All right, you ready?
Looking for an easy way out. Let me just tell you.
All right, so we're going to do graphic. What's nice about cotangent? Cotangent does not do what? Split. All right, so it's like sine and cosine. It's going to start and end just like we're used to. All right, amp is 1. Not really important in this problem. Period. Pi over 2, because it's a cotangent. Horizontal shift, because there's no vertical shift. Horizontal shift is what? And if there is a horizontal shift, do I have to worry about start and end? Start,
Yes.
end. What's the start?
Pi over
The right. So it's just like sine and cosine. And what do I do with the pi over 3? I add what to it? Period. Do you want to right away find a common denominator? Pi over 2 times 3 top and bottom would be what? 2 pi over...
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to write pi over 2. And I went too fast. All right. Now find your common denominator, and I apologize. It's 6. Do the work. I'm not going to do it for you, so I'm going to let you guys do it. Some of you can do it in your head.
I'm like half zoned out right now.
I know, me too. And I was just like, what? What is it? All right. What is it?
5 pi over 6.
Thank you. 5 pi over 6. All right. I'm glad you guys are still on track. Okay. Start, end, yada, yada. All right. So here's the question I have for you. First off, if it starts at pi over 3, what should I do with these? They need to be common denominators, so that I will change. Instead of pi over 3, what can I write that as? 2 pi over 6, so 1 over 6. 2 pi over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 pi. Nope. 5 pi over 6. Okay. Now, here's the question I have for you, since I don't need to get all fancy with this graph. Do you agree the beginning and the end are the asymptotes? And where does the 0 happen? At the middle or at one of the quarter points? It's always the middle. Do you agree it's going to look something like this? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. So do I need to worry about the quarter points? Is the middle point enough? Middle point's enough. So 5 plus 2 is
7.
7. You cut the 7 in half to get a decimal. If you don't like that, you do 7 pi over 6 times 1/2. So 7 pi over what? 12.
I just
Did anybody do the decimal instead? What do you have?
3.5.
Pi over 6. Either one is correct. All right, questions? Yes, no? Yes.
On the test, we don't have to show the
What kind